When you see people's kids, you think they're so adorable. They're going to be something great when they get older. But sometimes you can just look at a kid and know that they ain't going to be shit.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast, a podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Welcome to episode 2 of season 2. I am so loving it. Thank y'all, as always, for hanging in there with me. Keep rocking with your girl, because I ain't done, okay? Tonight, I am sipping on some Stella Rosa Honey Peach, and thanks to my good sis Danisha for the recommendation. This shit is so good, y'all. I will be drinking it all week. I mean, it is smooth, and y'all know how I feel about my Stella Rosa honey. I'm also snacking on some of my favorite candies, peanut M&Ms, and of course, I got my popcorn on deck. Okay, so I just need to know one thing: what y'all sipping on? Listen, I know y'all ready for tonight's episode. I had a lot of research on this one. It was, whoo child, it was a doozy. So, with that being said, y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. This week's case involves Judge Roland W. Barnes, victim, Deputy Cynthia Hall, surviving victim, Julie Brandow, victim, Deputy Sergeant Hoyt Teasley, victim, Agent David G. Willem, victim, Ashley Smith, surviving victim, an unnamed surviving victim slash ex-girlfriend, and kind of like the whole purpose of this episode. So, for the purpose of the episode, we're going to call her Jane Doe, but surviving victim, and the infamous murderer, Brian Nichols. Brian Gene Nichols was born December 10th, 1971, to Gene and Claretha Nichols. His mother was an agent for the Internal Revenue Service, and his father, Gene, was in the restaurant business. He actually owned a seafood restaurant in Glen Burnie, Maryland. Brian was the younger of two boys. He had an older brother by the name of Mark that was 4 years older than him. Now, with the lifestyle that he and his brother lived, it was safe to say that his family was pretty much well off. He and his older brother grew up in a nice three-bedroom house in the Edna Gardens neighborhood of Baltimore, Maryland. They were very privileged and got to experience things that other children didn't, like, vacations, trips out the country, all of that. A lot of Brian's friends remembered him as a very high-spirited individual, and the Nichols house was the neighborhood hangout. Like, everybody would come over there, and they would play basketball because they had one of those basketball hoops that you could hook up to the pole. So, like, somebody was always there hooping. Not to mention their parents had a nice ass house. Both Brian and Mark, they kind of had a little bit of trouble at times when it came to the law, especially as they got older. The funny thing is that Mark was more so the one that people thought would, turn to a life of crime. But clearly, this episode says different, okay? Because, like I said, you can look at some kids and be like, yeah, they ain't gonna be shit. So the two attended private schools. Brian actually went to Cardinal Gibbons High School in Baltimore, Maryland, which was this big private Catholic school. He and his friends were into a lot of activities. Like, he himself was very deep into martial arts. He played piano. His parents also had him in church too. He attended Baptist Church in Baltimore, Maryland, and was studying the word growing up, but It didn't seem like he was practicing the word, if you get my drift. So as he gets older, he's playing football in high school and he's doing the thing. He's very popular, Now he gets in trouble a lot, but he's the football player on the team and he's popular in school, so he gets away with it. Typical mean girl, mean boy, bully type shit. And when he graduates, he decides to attend Kutztown University to play football. Now it's 1989 and Brian's a freshman. He's the popular kid on campus, very attractive. I looked at the pictures of Brian when he was younger and I was like, okay, yeah, he a little on the yummy side. Now, not so much. But then, yeah, you know, everybody is peeping him. And when he's on campus, he meets this girl named Stephanie J. Stephanie J is from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and comes from a really good family as well. Like he sees her and he know he gotta have her. So he goes over to her and he's like, "What's up, baby? You looking good. You all of that in a bag of chips." Or, whatever the hell they said in 1989. I don't know. I was only 6, so I don't know. And Stephanie, she's feeling him. She's picking up what he putting down, like, oh, for real? Well, you a little cutie too. And after this, they start hanging out and getting to know each other. And before you know it, the two of them start dating. And y'all know how it is when you first get into a relationship. You're always around each other, always want to be together, be up under each other, can't get enough of each other. Every other word is baby or boo or honey bun, whatever. You on the phone all night and all day, all of that. And that's what the two of them were like. Like if you saw her, you saw him. If you saw him, you saw her. And, Stephanie takes him home to meet her family. He's going to the house with her, having Sunday dinners and all of that good stuff, with her people. They are loving Brian and Stephanie together. She even introduced her brother Scott to Brian, and everything is going good for a while. See, Brian started noticing that Stephanie was getting a lot of attention from other guys. Like she's a beautiful girl, so she's getting their attention. They like, damn, baby, you looking good, but she's like, stop, I got a boyfriend, all of that. And Brian ain't feeling it. Like, damn the fact that she's not paying any attention or even thinking about another man because she's with him. But you know how these insecure niggas can be. And, Brian's mean streak started to show. And it wasn't just with Stephanie that mean streak started to show. He was starting to become somebody that nobody recognized. Like, he was just fueled with hate. On one instance, he was hanging out with his boy Mark Steinmeier, and they were at this pizza parlor, just hanging out. And so, like, this guy bumps into Brian, and instead of him just like, I don't know, dismissing it, Brian goes off the deep end. Like, he's all, watch where the fuck you going? Who the hell you bumping into? And of course, the guy gets riled up because he's like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you? And so the two of them start arguing. And next thing you know, Brian does some kind of martial arts move from, his skills of martial arts and like does this whole roundhouse kick on this guy and just drops him to the ground. And then he just walks off like ain't shit happened. Yeah, see, right there, I feel like his parents might have missed the signs early on or just chose to, ignore them that something is clearly wrong with this motherfucker. Because this ain't the type of behavior that just pops up. Like, homie been off his rocker, but I guess they just chose not to address it. I don't know. But like I said, he's starting to, really show his true colors. And this is what I like to call taking the mask off. See, when you first get into a relationship, you're giving a representative of yourself. But after a while, you start to show folks who you really are. So Brian's been there for about a year now at Kutztown University. He's still with Stephanie and, he's still having these weird ass rage moments. Like, you know what? Now that I think about it, I wonder if he was taking steroids. They say they be having them little, them athletes be on them roid rage moments. I'm wondering if that's what that was. Anywho, So as time goes on, Brian, he's out and about and he has this little outburst on campus to the point that he gets charged with harassment and disorderly conduct from the campus police and he has to pay like a gang of fines. But then he gets hit with possession of marijuana charges, but he actually ended up getting acquitted for that. But the biggest thing was a year later in 1991. Stephanie comes to him with some news and she's like, hey Brian, baby, listen, we gotta talk. You know how you've been fucking up lately and getting into all of this trouble? Well, yeah, I'm gonna need you to get your shit together because I'm pregnant. And Brian is looking at Stephanie like she got three heads. He hit her with the shit, it ain't mine. And she looking at him just as crazy, like, nigga, don't play with me. You know this is your baby. But, he, I guess, somewhat sticks it out because he stays with her. And in 1992, Stephanie gives birth to a beautiful baby girl named Jasmine. Now, at this point, Brian has already been kicked out of the university. So he leaves Kutztown and he's kind of like bouncing around for a little bit. He transfers to Newberry College in South Carolina, where he also joined the football team. But it didn't really take him long to get into trouble there because he ends up stealing from one of the dorm rooms and gets in trouble again. And then on top of that, he and Stephanie break up and she's left to raise baby Jasmine all by herself. Oh, trifling ass nigga. But, in 1996, he gets hemmed up on a drug charge and he's put on probation for 3 years. And you know that the schools don't play that when it comes to drug charges and stuff. So they ended up telling him, hey, homie, you got to go. So he gets kicked out of school from Newberry College and he's on probation and trying to figure out what he's going to do. So he just decides, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to move to Georgia, start over. So he moves to Georgia where he gets a job at Hewlett Packard. But then as the year goes on, Brian is working and, trying to start his new life when his old life kind of pops up on his ass because his baby mama, Stephanie, she's fed up with the fact that she has his daughter and he's not doing anything to help take care of her. Like, nigga, I didn't make this baby by myself. You helped make her. Now you going to help take care of her. So she goes to Clayton County Courthouse and she tries to sue Brian. Why? Because he's $13,000 behind in child support payments. Nigga, how the fuck are you making six figures at Hewlett Packard, but you are behind $13,000? Make that make sense. Hmm. Anyway, so the court started looking for him and they're looking and looking, but Waldo is nowhere to be found. They looked for a whole 2 years trying to serve this man, but there was no way of locating him. So they ended up dismissing the case in 2002, and Brian gets off scot free. He walking around like he big shit because they can't catch his ass, which is crazy to me because like I said, you got this great ass job at Hewlett and Packard. You're making six figures, but you're not wanting to pay your child support. Like, come on, man, make that make sense. And it's not like, he was just there bullshitting. He's been with Hewlett Packard for a good amount of time. Like, I think overall he worked there for like 8 years, but, he's getting off easy when it comes to the child support system. And, you know, I don't know what he was spending the money on. Maybe it was the women because he had a lot of women into him. But there was this one woman in particular, this woman of mystery. Now, for the life of me, I cannot find this girl's name. And when I say they kept it under wraps, baby, she must be freaking Malia Obama or some shit because it was not one document with her name on it. Now, for the purpose of this episode, like I said, her name is going to be Jane Doe because, yeah, like she's just that much of a mystery. So, Jane Doe met Brian at her job. Now, she was a 33-year-old living in Sandy Springs, Georgia, and she was doing fairly well for herself. She had a condo there and she was very educated. She had gotten her bachelor's degree from this college in Virginia and had recently gotten a master's of business administration from a college there in Georgia. Now, obviously, the information was withheld to protect her identity, but she had started working as a corporate executive at this credit reporting agency, and that's how she met Brian because he was a security guard there in December of 1996. But Brian meets Jane Doe and he's like, damn, this is the woman for me. She's beautiful, she's charismatic, not to mention she got a little bit of money too. She drove a nice car, she ain't had no babies or nothing like that, so he didn't have to worry about any drama. Now, this may sound a little weird, but I feel like Jane Doe might have been white with some of the shit that went on. I feel like she might possibly be a white girl because I don't see some of this shit flying with a sister. I don't like. I know it sounds crazy, but a part of me is thinking like she might be a white girl, but we gonna find out. So he's thinking to himself like, "Yo, I could really make this work with her." And that's what he does. They're hanging out, they're getting to know each other. They're together for a good minute, okay? Like this wasn't no quick fly by night relationship. They were together for like 7 years. They had grown to know each other and love each other. Oh, baby, I see a life with you, all of that. She met his family in Baltimore and in South Carolina, and he had gone to West Virginia to meet her family. Like they going together, like they Carisha, we go together real bad. Okay. She bought him a membership to this gym, um, Crunch Fitness, and it's in Buckhead. And she even bought him a white BMW. Like, baby, when I tell you this girl, that's some love for your ass. She bought her man a car, okay, and was like, listen, baby, I'm gonna make sure you straight. I'm gonna make sure that my baby got a car. My man gonna have a nice whip, and she made sure to buy him not just a car, but a Beamer. Like, seriously? I would have taken that shit back so fast when we broke up, but I'm petty like that. You gotta have some grade A dick to get a Beamer. Like, you spending money on this man, like gigolo ass kind of motherfucker. Like, he living the good life. But I, okay, more power to you. Like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. I don't care how good the dick is. You want me to be out here buying a Beamer for you, bro? Okay. But he's living a good life, but that jealous streak in him was laying dormant, just ready to surface. And the first chance he gets, he's popping off at her. Who the fuck is this nigga? Why the fuck is he in your face? They start going at it, and she's like, Brian, I can't deal with you when you're like this. I can't be with you when you're like this. So, you know what? Let's just take a chill pill and just cool it off for a while. And, he's not about to let her see him sweat. So he's like, all right, whatever. But even though they cool it off, they keep finding their way back to each other. Well, at least his dick finds his way back to her hot pocket. But, they break up to make up, all of that. Y'all know how it goes. So, things are going good between Brian and his girlfriend. They've been together for a while. In 2000, they had moved in together and they were living together for like 6 months. And then in April of 2003, they made the ultimate sacrifice, and the two of them went to church and decided that they were going to be celibate. Of course, they fucked around before, but they decided that they were going to get baptized together, and they made a promise that they were going to remain celibate until they got married. Whew, not me, baby. I need the dick. Like, I be damned. No, no, no. I need that on a regular basis. But anyway, so back in like 2004, Jane Doe starts noticing that Brian is not being 100% honest with her. She finds out that he's been seeing this woman by the name of Sonia Meredith. And she's like, oh, hell no. I've been treating you like a king, and this is what you do? Nope. I can't be with you no more. I can't do it. And y'all know how these niggas are. He's like, but baby, I'm sorry. It wasn't like that, I promise. She don't mean nothing to me. And she's pissed. She's like, she got every right to be. She ain't trying to hear shit that he got to say. But, she tries to give him the benefit of the doubt, and they get back together. And she makes it clear to him, like, if we're going to get back together, then we have to go to counseling. And so he agrees. So they go to the Southern Christian Counseling Services to try to figure out how they're going to save their relationship. And she's being honest with the therapist. She's got emotions and feelings and a love that just don't, go away in one day, especially in the amount of time that they've been together. But, they're making it work, and, they've been together for a very long time. So she's like, all right, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to make it work. Until June of 2004, when Sonia pops up at the condo. And now Jane Doe, oh baby girl, is big mad. You got this bitch coming to my house where I live? Hell no, nigga. Do I look stupid to you? But he's still on that, baby. Me and her ain't been together no more. It ain't like that, I swear. And again, she ain't stupid. She sees how Sonia is talking to him and how she's treating him. She know he dicking her down too. And so she going off on him 1 minute, but at the same time, like, she's quoting the Bible, like, it's hilarious because she's like, nigga, fuck you. And then she's all, believe in God with all of your heart. Like, this shit is funny to me. So, they agreed that they're going to separate and, kind of see other people and figure out what they want to do. And that was cool with her. But then they decided that they were going to work things out once again, and they were going to get back together once again. However, shortly after they got back together, Jane Doe starts noticing that he's still kind of close with Sonia. And so she decides, you know what? Let me cut out the middleman. I'm going to have a conversation with Sonia myself. And the two of them sit down and they start talking about what's been going on over the last couple of months and kind of, filling each other in on their perspective. Now, you know, Jane Doe is very pleasant and everything, and she's not, mean to Sonia. Like, they're both literally sitting down talking, having a civil conversation, which I applaud because it's too many bitches that be out here trying to fight each other. Oh, you fucking my nigga, and they be ready to square off. And I'm just like, y'all do realize that while y'all are fighting each other, this nigga is sitting back laughing at y'all asses, more than likely, probably fucking another bitch. But go off, sis. So, they're sitting down talking, and Sonia drops the bomb on her. She tells her, listen, girl, I know he probably hasn't told you anything yet, but I'm pregnant and I'm having his baby. That was the last straw for Jane Doe. Like, girl, what? You pregnant? What? Oh, okay. And so she tells Brian, fuck you. It's over. You keep trying to play my face. Like, you keep disrespecting me. You want to be on some Kirk and Rashida type shit. You gonna have a whole ass baby while we together? I know that was wrong. I'm sorry. But she wasn't like Rashida. She was like, nah, you gotta go. You cheated on me and you had a baby with somebody else. I'm done. And Brian, he's pleading with her. Baby, I know I fucked up. I know I'm wrong, but I believe that God can get us through this. Try Jesus, not me, cause I throw hands. Like, ain't it funny how niggas get real religious when they fuck up? All of a sudden you find God. Like, where was God beforehand? Where was your religion before you decided to stick your dick in another bitch, sir? Yo, I swear my ex was the king of that shit. Like, nigga stayed sticking his dick in other bitches, and then all of a sudden he at church on Sunday crying and repenting and all of that bullshit, but was still turning around and do the same shit. Like, nigga. But anyway. So she breaks it off with him. And, of course, it's hard for her to deal with, but she's going on through the days and she's trying to move on with her life. And I mean, that's how a lot of it goes. We hurt and we hurt and we push through, but she's starting to see less and less of Brian. But, occasionally he would still go to the church that they attended, which was the Word of God Christian Center in Sewanee, Georgia. But she kept it cordial when she would see him. It was never anything crazy until she found herself a new man. See, Jane Doe meets Chris Roswell, a pastor at the church. Yes, y'all, a pastor. Okay. See, her and Chris hit it off very well. And, he was a perfect gentleman. And y'all know Brian found out about it and he ain't like that at all. He is hot. It's like, oh, word, this the shit you do? So, because I did you wrong and cheat on you and get another girl pregnant, you going to go on and move on and be happy? You going to start dating a pastor? Oh, no, 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 no. We can't have that. So he's getting more and more upset at the fact that she's moved on, especially with the good pastor. Like, and the funny thing is, he was one of the ones that was there counseling her. So one night, it's like mid August of 2004, and she and Chris went out on a dinner date. So after they go out to eat, they stop by her house and she had gone grocery shopping. So he's supposed to be bringing the groceries in the house for her. They pull into her garage and she just gets this weird feeling in the pit of her stomach like, we are not alone. So she tells Chris, baby, get back in the car. Something's wrong. And she's looking and she sees that Brian is in the garage. And she's like, boy, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you here? And, of course, Chris wants to confront him, but she's telling him, no, just get back in the car. So Chris gets back in the car, but Brian is pissed. So he comes charging at them, mad, screaming and ranting. What the hell is he doing here? Why is he here? What the fuck is this minister doing at your house? Like, damn the fact that you broke into her crib, but you want to question her. I guess so, because clearly he did it. Like he's all, how dare you with this nigga here, the man that's supposed to be a man of God. Okay, so a man of God can't date, a man of God can't get no put. Mm-mm, I'm sorry, it almost slipped. Y'all listen, y'all gotta understand. Okay, I am a child of God. I know this. I know there is many a day that God just be looking down like, yo, what did I do when he knew what he did when he made me. He knew that I was going to bring entertainment to the world. It'd be days where I know God just be looking down like, man, this girl here. But anyway, so Brian's mad. He's just like, I can't believe you. You over here fucking with the pastor. This nigga shouldn't be here. And I guess she got out the car at some point because Brian shoves her out the way and just like runs up on Chris, knocks the groceries out of his hand. He's like, say, bruh, let me holler at you outside. And Jane Doe, she's fed up. She's like, Brian, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh my God, you need to leave. And eventually he does actually leave. And, she is so apologetic to Chris. She's like, babe, I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it. It's over with me and him. I don't want him. Now, she doesn't call the police, which I'm a little confused about. Like, this man broke into your house and was waiting on you to come home. Like, what would have happened if you came home by yourself instead of with Chris? And not only that, but it ain't like the brother don't have a history with the police. Like, him going back to jail is kind of a good thing. So I don't know why she didn't call, but that's just the way I'm looking at it. But, she let it be. And she thought that she needed to be responsible for him because at this point, his parents are now in Africa. So he's kind of like stuck by himself. And, his brother's all the way in Florida and his other family members are in Baltimore. So she's like, okay, I need to just be that voice of reasoning for him. And y'all, once he sees that Jane Doe is with good old Chris, oh, all of a sudden he's suicidal. And he's talking all this shit about how he wants to kill himself. And, she feels like she has to help him. So she calls him, but, he's not answering it. She's calling him and she's calling him. She's leaving him voicemails, text messages, all of that. And he's just choosing not to answer the phone. So she's starting to get scared and she's thinking, you know what? I got to talk to his mom. So on August 11th, 2004, she reaches out to his mom who's in Tanzania and she sends her an email. And so she writes, I really need your help and to talk to you. Things between Brian and I are spiraling out of control. And she tells his mom about the confrontation that he had with Chris. And so she goes on to say, Brian is definitely out of control. She tells her about the baby he has on the way with Sonia and how he lied to her and told her Sonia was having an abortion so that they could save their relationship. And she goes on to tell his mother, I told him I really thought things were too far gone. I'm unsure that I have the energy that will climb out of this hole. And right now, I just want some space and peace in my life. And of course, she mentioned him threatening to commit suicide because she wanted to make sure that he was going to be okay in the long run. So she asked his mom flat out, should I force him to go into a hospital for evaluation and monitoring? Can I put him on a plane to Africa for a few months? He's obviously strong enough to handle this, but he doesn't know or feel it right now. Now, of course, I can't see his mother's response in the court documents, and I honestly don't know if she responded. But after she emailed his mother, Jane Doe, she feels a little bit better. And she's thinking that, okay, maybe he's going to calm down. But then he pops up at the church claiming that, he's there for choir practice. And she's like, really, Brian? Now you're coming to choir practice, but you haven't been to church in years? Boy, please. If you're really trying to be here in the choir, I get it. But if you're trying to make a scene or some type of manipulation or control tactic, then you need to go. And Brian's trying to smooth her over. Baby, listen, I really need help. I'm having a hard time moving past this. Baby, she had the patience of a saint because not me. So she caves again. And it's like, okay, look, I'm going to try to help you out. So she calls her mom and she tells her, listen, mom, I need your help with something. So she and Brian and her mom and the church's senior pastor, not Chris, and his wife, they all come together and they meet for like 3 to 4 hours. And the pastor is talking to Brian, and he's like, Brian, you two may not be together anymore, but she still wants to be your friend. She's willing to help you get through this, but you've got to come to the acceptance that the relationship is over. But Brian is just not wanting to accept it. So, some time goes on, and Jane Doe, she's getting to know Chris. This is her new man. They're exploring their relationship and all of that. Now, it just so happens that she had some tickets to go to a George Benson and Will Downing concert in Chastain Park on August 18th. Now, when she got the tickets originally, it was supposed to be her and Brian going, but because her and Brian had broken up, she decided to take Chris. So she and Chris and some of her friends, they go to this concert. It's like 10 of them that went to the concert. And when it's over, they ended up going back to her house. And they're there chilling, all that good stuff. But as they're leaving, Chris notices somebody outside. And he was like, hey baby, I think Brian is outside. And he would be correct because Brian was outside. So Brian goes to Chris and he's all, listen, I need to talk to you. And Jane Doe, she's thinking quick, trying to, keep the situation from escalating. And she's like, how about both of y'all leave? But Brian's like, nah, I want to talk to Chris. But she ain't playing with his ass. She lets him know, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. And Brian could give a shit. In fact, he tells her, I don't give a fuck, call the police. They can come. They can lock me up. They can take me to jail, but eventually I'll be out and I'll be back. Call them. Call the po. Okay, he didn't say that part, but yeah. So Chris is trying to keep the peace. Like, he's just like, babe, let me just talk to him because he's not going to go away. So she agrees, and he goes outside to talk to Brian. And Brian, he assures him that he's unarmed. Like, he shows him his hands and all of that. But bro, I ain't trusted it. Like, sorry, not sorry. But Chris goes outside to talk to him, and Brian actually flips it and apologizes and says, look, I'm sorry for pushing you. I was just really missing her and I really wanted to get back with her. But you know what? Let me ask you something. Have you ever kissed her? And Chris is like, yeah, of course. And Brian says, oh, word. So you seen her naked? And Chris is laughing because he's like, bruh, I just started dating her. Like, even if I did, that ain't none of your business. And now Brian, he's pissed off because this man trying to take my girl. Like, he trying to step on my territory. And so he tells Chris, yo, I love her. I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to show her how much I love her. Do you love her? And Chris is like, yes, I do. And Brian just pushes it. He's like, "So would you be willing to take a bullet for her?" See, right there, that's where you should have stopped that shit and be like, "Bro, what the fuck?" But Chris is like, "Yo, this motherfucker crazy." But he says, "Yeah, I would." And Brian starts getting real weird with it. Like he's like, "Well, if the bullet was coming at her, would you stand in front of it?" And the good pastor's like, "Well, yeah, yes, I would." And Brian ain't too pleased because he's like, "Well, how dare you actually give a fuck about my girl?" Like he gets in Chris's face and he tells him, "Yo, you don't want to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, do you?" Now Chris ain't no bitch. So he's looking at him like, "Bro, what the fuck you mean?" And Brian shrugs and was like, "I'm just saying, you don't want to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. You might want to think about the relationship and you might want to think about coming around her." So he leaves that night, but like a week later, he pops up at the church where he knows Chris is at. And he got a little word for him. And he tells him, "Look here, there's a demon inside of me and it's getting very powerful. I don't know what I'm capable of doing. So you moving in a dangerous situation." And Chris is just like done with this nigga. He's like, "Brian, what the fuck does that mean, bruh?" Now, of course, he didn't say those words because he's a pastor, but I'm just kind of ad libbing here. And Brian is like talking in circles, acting like the fucking Riddler and shit. And so he tells Chris, "I'm just letting you know that you're moving into a very dangerous situation." So, Chris is trying to be Christian like. And he's like, "Brian, my brother, let me just pray for you. I will pray for the situation and pray for you as well." And Brian like laughs at him. He's like, "I don't need no damn prayer. You need to end things with her. I don't care who she dates. She can date whoever she want to date in Atlanta, just not your ass." Like that's some cryptic shit. Baby, I would have been throwing holy water all over his ass, dipping your ass into the baptismal pool, casting out demons, whatever the fuck I could. Okay. Chris is so, he's worried. So he calls Jane Doe and he's like, "Baby, listen, I don't know what's going on with this dude, but you need to lock your doors. Don't you answer that door. Brian may come by. Do not let him in." And she tells him, "Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. He came by here already, banging on the door, all kind of stuff, but I didn't let him in." The next morning, on August 19th, around 5 o'clock in the morning, Jane Doe wakes up to her burglar alarm going off. And she's coming out of a deep sleep, like, "What the hell?" She can hear somebody running up the stairs to her bedroom. Now, she knew that Brian had a key to her house and she hadn't changed the locks yet, but she had changed the code on the alarm and it's beeping, but he's already in the house. Girl, you see that this nigga is batshit crazy. Why in the hell you didn't get your key back the day that y'all broke up? Like, this nigga is unhinged. You know he ain't all the way there. But I'm not gonna victim blame because the shit that he was doing damn sure wasn't her fault. But ladies and gentlemen, let me let me make this clear. Okay. When you break up with somebody, if you end a relationship with them and they got a key to your spot, get your shit back, please. I'm just saying. But the lights cut on and Brian is standing there in her bedroom looking like fucking Cape Fear and shit. And at first, Jane Doe thinks she's dreaming, but she sees him standing there with a semi automatic handgun. And he's just looking at her and he tells her to put the code in to cut the alarm off. And so she does what, he tells her to. She's scared shitless. She gets up, she goes over to the alarm keypad and she puts in the code to cut it off. Then he tells her to lay face down on the bed and she does. And so he duct tapes her and he tapes her wrists and her ankles and he starts pacing the floor, looking out the blinds, and like he starts crying. "There's these demons inside of me. They were awake because of all of this. But if you do whatever I tell you to do, I won't hurt you." And she's begging Brian, "Please, Brian, please don't do this." But he tells her it's too late. It's too late. So he helps her go to the bathroom and he tells her to get in the tub. And he tapes her hands to the faucet. And while she's taped up, he goes downstairs. Now, while he's downstairs, she's trying to figure out how to break free, but she can't. So when he comes back up there, he's got another weapon. And this time, it's a machine gun. Y'all, what the fuck? He pulls a can of lighter fluid out of his duffel bag that he had brought in and threatens her. He's like, yo, if you so much as try to run or scream, I'm gonna burn your ass alive. And Jane Doe is scared out of her mind. And she believes everything that he is saying. Like, clearly, this man ain't all the way there. So she just sits there and she's praying for a miracle. And he pulls out, some cigar rolls, and he rolls him a little blunt or whatever. And do y'all know this fool had a cooler with food in it? Like, my nigga had ice water, lunch meat, and bread. He had plans to stay until her birthday, August 22nd, which was a whole 3 days later. He was going to help her celebrate. What the fuck? Nigga, I don't need you to celebrate. You know how you can help me celebrate? Get the fuck up out my shit. But, he just starts antagonizing her. Yeah, I paid somebody to take out your little boyfriend, right? Yeah, I paid him $500. They were supposed to kill Chris, but I decided to do it myself. So that's why I went to the concert and saw y'all. And, meanwhile, she's still trying to break free. So she was like, all right, let me just be nice. She's like, okay, I got to figure something out. So she tells him, Brian, the tape is cutting off my circulation. Can you please take it off? And he does his first nice act and he cuts the tape so that she can be free, but he still got the gun on her the whole time. Now, it gets a little bit later in the morning and Brian realizes, damn, she got to be at work. So he tells her, look, you need to call your boss and leave her a message that you're not coming in. And so she's pleading with him, Brian, please, I got to go to work. And he's like, not today. You're going to leave her a message. So she has no choice. She does what he says, and he's standing there listening to her, and he tells her, that was real good. I'm going to show you how I do it, though. So he calls his boss, and he says, listen, shit fucked up right now. My grandmama died, and then my mama died of a heart attack when she found out my grandmama died while she was in Africa. So I got to go over there and identify the body and make funeral arrangements. I don't know when I'm going to be able to come back. And, his boss is like, oh my God, Brian, I'm so sorry. Yes, take all the time you need. Like, this nigga had a full out story. Your grandmama died and your mama died from a heart attack because your grandmama died. Yeah, he had his shit covered. That nigga knew he was going to be there for a while. He clearly planned this shit. So, time is passing and his emotions are all over the place. One minute he's angry and he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And then the next minute he's crying, baby, I love you. I can't believe I'm doing this shit. And Jane Doe, she sees him spiraling. She's thinking, okay, I gotta try to figure out how to calm him down, you know. And remember, her hands are free now. So she actually gets her Bible at one point and she starts reading Bible verses to him. And she gets to sweet talking him. And she's like, baby, we've experienced too many good things in our relationship to just let it end like this. Brian, you need professional help, please. I will get you the help that you need. But his bipolar ass switched up again and was like, hold the fuck up. I'm in control of this situation. We're not going to do shit how you want to do it. So he makes her get back into the tub and he ties her back up. He goes outside to his car and he comes back with this big ass bag of weed and he tells her, yeah, I'm a gangster. I do weed. And she's looking at him like, what the hell? When did you start smoking weed? And he starts confession shit all throughout the conversation. Like, I'm like, okay, Usher. So he's like, yeah, I smoke weed all through the relationship. I just didn't tell you about it. But what can she do? She tied up. So she's like, Brian, baby, my fingers are starting to hurt again. So this time he cuts the tape, but he cuts her fingers in the process. And he's like, oh, damn, I wasn't trying to see your blood. I can't believe I'm doing this. You know what? Get out the tub. You need to strip. And she is like mortified at this point. Like she's like, wait, what? You want me to what? And he repeats himself. He was like, do it. Get out the fucking tub and take your clothes off. So she takes off her burgundy and white pair of boxer shorts and a white t-shirt and she gets in the shower like he tells her to. But she takes a super long shower because she's trying to figure out how she can get out of there, how she can escape. Like she don't know what's going to happen. Shit just going through her mind. Like, where the hell are my keys? What if I get away? Is there something I can, do? Is there something that can trip me up to keep me from getting to the car? She's thinking ahead, but she never really got an opportunity to run because he tells her he gets tired of her showering so long and he was like, "All right, get out." So she reaches for a towel to cover up, but he was like, "Nah, I want you to sit just like that." Now, of course, he's seen her naked a million times, but this is like a different level of humiliation. Like she's sitting there naked on the toilet while he gets in the shower. And, of course, she thought about running then while he was in the shower, but she knew that he would catch her. So when he was done, he picks up a towel and he throws it at her and he's like, "Dry me off." Like, nigga, this ain't coming to America. You ain't Prince Hakeem. Like, this nigga was really feeling himself on some whole come dry me off. Like, bruh, you, mm, mm, whew. Anyway, y'all. So he picks up some baby oil and he makes her rub it on his chest and shoulders. And, she's going along with it, acting like she's fine with everything. Like, it's nothing wrong. And when she's done, he grabs her and takes her out the bathroom and they go down to the kitchen and he gets a beer out of the freezer. And, he tells her to get this bottle of wine or whatever, trying to get her to drink. But, she doesn't drink. Like she's never drank. And he knows this. So he ends up rolling up another blunt and he makes her smoke it. Like he's like, "Here, smoke this." So she tries to be slick and pretend to inhale, and he sees that she didn't actually do it and he's like, "No, you need to fucking smoke this." Like he makes her inhale it and she's coughing and he's like, "Oh, if you throw up, you cleaning that shit up." Nigga, what? Okay, so you want me to smoke even though I don't smoke. Then if I get sick, you gonna make me clean the shit up because you want me to smoke. Okay. But then, like, he shocks the shit out of her and he continues with his confessions. I'm telling y'all, this nigga was on some Usher shit. He was confessions one and confessions two. Okay. So he says to her, "Listen, since I'm here, I might as well tell you. Remember how we was celibate for 16 months and how you wouldn't give me none? Yeah, so I paid like 100 bitches money to fuck. Shit, I done spent like 4 grand on prostitute. Baby, that's a lot of $40 hoes. Okay. Like, actually, no. That is $40 per hoe. Damn. Cause if you spend $4,000 on 100 bitches, like, I don't know why my math just started mathing. This nigga was the king of the $40 hoes. Oh my God. He was doing $40 hoes before it was $40 hoes. Wow. Anyway, but Jane knows she's in shock hearing all of this, and all she's thinking is like, "Yo, what if he has something? He just told me he been fucking all these prostitutes and paying them and shit. What if he contracted HIV or AIDS?" Like, and that's facts. Like, that's nothing to play with. But she doesn't have time to really react because the next thing she knows, he's telling her, "All right, you about to give me some head." And of course, she doesn't want to because she's like, "You just told me that you was out here fucking random bitches." But again, what choice does she have? Like, he's got nunchucks, he's got a handgun, he's got a machine gun. So she ends up giving him head, but that's not enough for him. He tells her to get on the bed, and now she's crying and she knows that he's about to rape her. And she's like, "Don't do this. Brian, please don't do this to me. I love you." But he doesn't want to hear it. And she's like, "Please, I'm scared. You just told me that you slept with all these women." And he tries to reassure her and he tells her that he'll put a condom on and, that when he's done, he's going to let her go. So hearing that, she's like, "Okay, the sooner that I can get this over with, the better." And so she just lays there and he's raping her for like 45 minutes. And when he's done, she gets up and, she puts on some shorts and a t-shirt and she was like, "Okay, Brian, you said that you would let me go. Please let me go." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna let you go, but you need to take another shower." And she does what he says. And then when she gets out, he tells her to, go pick up all the duct tape and all the other shit that he's kind of, throwing around the house and to take it to the trash. And she does what he says. And finally, around 1 p.m., he packs up all of his shit and he gets ready to leave, but not before he gives her another warning. "I'm going to go. But if you go to the cops, I will be back. And I can promise you, I ain't going to stop with you. I don't want to get your mama and daddy involved in this, but I will." And so he walks to the door. He stops and he turns back to her and he says, I won't bother you anymore. I'm out your life. This is over for me as well. This is closure to us. And with that, he just walks out the door. Like, what the fuck? This puts closure to things? You raping me beyond my control, beyond my wishes is putting closure to shit? You holding me against my will at gunpoint is putting closure to things? You sick, sadistic motherfucker. Make that shit make sense. So as soon as Brian leaves, she jumps in her car and she drives down the street and goes one way, Brian goes the other. Now, of course, it took her a little bit, but she does go to the cops. And before she does that, she had gone to this Target in Stone Mountain and she got her a prepaid cell phone. She calls her parents and then she calls Chris to tell him about what happened. I don't get the purpose of using a prepaid cell phone because I'm like, okay, she clearly could have used her cell phone, but whatever. I don't know. I don't know if she left it at the house. I don't know, but she went and got a prepaid cell phone and she called her parents. Then she called Chris. And, her mother, she calls Chris and she tells him what happens. And, he's upset. He's devastated. So he's racing to her parents' house. He's like, all right, I'm going to meet you at your parents' house. And her parents are just as upset. And this is the reason why I said that I felt like maybe she was a white girl. And the only reason I say that, I know that sounds cynical, but I feel like sisters, we handle things a certain way. And how this was handled, I'm like, I okay. So the reason why I say that is because when she told her mom what happened, her mom was like, I can't believe this. I'm gonna call him. What? Not you gonna call the man that just raped your daughter. Like l- if I okay, I have two, three beautiful stepdaughters. Let one of them tell me that this happened. Ain't gonna be no calling. Pull up and I'ma handle ish. Okay? Without saying too much. Just know mama gonna pull up. Okay? If daddy don't beat me to it. And if anything, that's the nigga that everybody gotta worry about. But her mama's like, I'm gonna call him. And I'm like, not you gonna call him. Like, do you really think he gonna listen to you? Are you really trying to be a voice of reason to a man that just raped your daughter? And so, Jane Doe, she's like, "Mama, please don't do that. He said he's gonna hurt you. Just don't call him." And her mom is like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And so Jane Doe finally decides to call the cops and reports Brian. And so the dispatcher tells her to go to the hospital in Fulton County, get a rape kit done, all of that. So she goes to the hospital at Northside at like 6:30 that night and she gets examined. And they give her a rape kit and she gives a statement to the cops. And so by like 10 or 11ish, she leaves. Now, before midnight, the police go and they pick up Brian, and he is officially arrested. On August 24th, 2004, Brian G. Nichols is indicted for rape, sodomy, and false imprisonment. The trial begins with Judge Roland Barnes presiding, and for the most part, Brian is very honest about what happened. Like, he's not really denying anything, but at the same time, he's kind of like making it seem like it's her fault. So she takes the stand and she tells them everything that happened. She tells them how he had been stalking her and how she had moved on with this new relationship with Chris, how Brian just couldn't accept that she no longer wanted to be with him. She talked about the rape and how he forced himself into her house and everything. It got so bad to the point that when she was on the stand, the judge had to stop everything because she was sobbing uncontrollably. Like, the judge literally had to say, listen, let's stop. We need to take a break. Go get you a Coca Cola, step outside, support your local habit, whatever you need to do. And when they reconvene, Brian takes the stand. Punk ass. Now, he was represented by Barry Hazen. And the prosecutor at the time, Gail Abramson, she showed the pictures to the jury from the crime scene, which was, the girlfriend's house. There was pictures of her bed, her nightstand, a water jug, and the white BMW that she had bought for Brian. So on February 24th, 2005, like, this was a very long trial, y'all. Like, the trial started in like fucking September, October, I think. And Brian didn't take the stand until February 24th of 2005. So he gets on the stand and he starts talking about his relationship with her. They were together for 7 years and it was so wonderful and how he was devoted to her. He talked about how the doctors found tumors in her uterus and performed surgery to remove the fibroids, and how he took care of her night and day and would work to provide, and that the only reason that they refrained from sex is because of the fact that she had had the surgery. He talked about how in April or May of 2004, he had proposed to her, but there was like a little bit of trouble. And so he tells the jury, well, we had some good times and we had some bad times, but I thought that at that point it was time to either move on in our relationship or it was time to separate ourselves. And she said that she said that she wasn't ready to get married yet. So my response was, that's fine. We need to take some time apart and figure out exactly what to do. Like, he's making it seem like he's calling all the shots. He's making it seem like it was just so consensual and everything was okay. And we all know that it wasn't. And, he's going on talking about how they kept in touch and still talked every day, still emailed every day. He tries to make it seem like the breakup was kind of minor, like, oh, we broke up, but we really weren't broken up. And according to him, she begged him to get back together when she saw him and Sonia, together. So he figured, well, I guess we can go ahead and work it out for the sake of our relationship. But then he tells the jury, even though I shouldn't have, I kept my relationship with Sonia. I knew it was wrong. I dated them both to try to figure out where I wanted to be, which was wrong. And then, according to Brian, Jane Doe found out that Sonia was pregnant and he wanted to work it out with her. But, he kept in touch with Sonia. And when he came to Jane Doe about him taking maternity leave, he told her, I'm going to stay with Sonia so I can help her with the baby. And that's supposedly what pissed her off. Like, you think, asshole? How about the fact that you got another girl pregnant when y'all were together is what pissed her off? But when they mentioned Chris, Brian got so upset, y'all. That whole nice boy routine went out the window. Like, he talked about how he had never been violent before until he sees her with him. This man actually said on the stand, there's a section of the Bible that talks about qualifications for a pastor. First Timothy 3rd chapter. It says that a pastor should be blameless, a person not covetous and merciful. Y'all remember, this was the pastor that baptized him and Jane Doe, okay? And so that's why he's so hot. He was like, well, he was standing in the water with us, pulling us down in the water and pulling us back out the water. I mean, that church was a spiritual home for me. I looked at Chris and I couldn't believe what he was doing. I told him that I felt it was wrong for him to be in a minister position and dating this woman. I told him that I thought he was a false prophet, a false teacher. We just had an argument, nigga. Really? So when the prosecutor asked him about August 18th, 2004, he tells her, well, he, meaning Chris, had his position and I had my position. He had just left. She called me about 45 minutes later and asked me to bring her something to eat, and that's what led me to her place. That's how it was with her. It was constant. So you mean to tell me that this woman called you at 5 o'clock in the morning and asked you to bring her something to eat? Really? Hmm. Okay. No phone records? Okay. Now, according to him, Jane Doe had brought up Sonia in the pregnancy and everything again, and that's how they got into that argument. And he was like, "Oh, well, we had just made love, and now we were right back where we were. Nothing was resolved. We're right back to square one." She hit me when I told her that I was probably still going to move in with Sonia. She smacked me, and since I never put my hands on a woman in any way that she didn't want me to or ask me to, I was mad. Now I did tell her, you only, you only know about two of the women that I've been with. If you multiply that times 50 or 75, you would have a more accurate number of the number of women I've been with through our 7-year relationship. It was a stupid thing of me to say, and it wasn't true, but she was upset, and so I left. Then this man admits that he had two guns in the trunk of his car, but he didn't bring them in the house. He said the reason why he had the gun in the trunk of his car is because he didn't trust his current roommate. He said that, he showed her, meaning Jane Doe, he showed her the machine gun before they broke up, but that was it. And that was because she, quote unquote, liked guns. So the district attorney, he starts asking questions because he's basically saying that, she's lying about everything. And Brian is like, listen, about 90% of everything that she said ain't true. And so the ADA is like, including the part about the marijuana. And he says, including the part about the marijuana. And so the ADA says, including the part about forcing her at gunpoint to turn the alarm off. And he says, yeah, including that part too. So the ADA goes on and says, so when she says that you forced her to have intercourse against her will, that wasn't true. Is that correct? And Brian looks at him and says, that's exactly what I'm saying. And the ADA says, okay, so the fact that you duct taped her, you've heard the police found that the duct tape, so that wasn't true. And Brian is all, dude, man, what are you asking me? I ain't rape her. I ain't tape her up. Where that duct tape came from, I ain't got no idea. And the ADA says, oh, so she just made that up. And Brian's like, yeah, exactly. I have nothing to do with the tape marks that the doctors found on her. I ain't got nothing to do with that. And so the ADA says, so she did this to herself, is what you're saying. And Brian is like, yeah, man, matter of fact, I wonder if the good reverend had anything to do with it, trying to, throw them off, which was terrible. So he's trying to implicate Chris and say that, she lied depending on him. And he was so distraught and all of that. And he's just, this is the final straw. It's been a long 6 months for me. It's hard for me to think about the nice things that she's done for me. And at the same time, I'm sitting on the stand being accused of rape. Like, boy, fuck you. So once he's done with his testimony, they're like, oh, okay, well, do you have anything to, add? Anything else to say? And he says, I can't tell you why she's doing what she's doing. I can't tell you why she has me sitting here facing 2 life sentences plus 55 years for these accusations. And so he answers a couple of more questions and then he steps down from the stand. And so, the jury is dismissed to deliberate. They go and they start deliberating, but they're having a hard time coming up with a verdict. They ended up splitting 8-4 in favor of an acquittal. Like, that's crazy. 8 people wanted him acquitted and 4 voted for him guilty. And some of the jurors were saying that, Jane Doe's story was just so outrageous that they needed more physical proof of it. And so the judge ends up ordering a retrial. So the prosecution lines up more witnesses, including Brian, Chris Roswell, and his boss to try to support, Brian's ex's story, Jane Doe. This time they had blood tests from the crime scene. And Brian's new trial date was set for March 11th, 2005. I love March 11th. That's such a great day. Shout out to the Pisces. But just 3 days before that, Brian's ex, Sonia Meredith, gives birth to baby boy on March 8th, 2005. And Brian is so happy. He's got this beautiful baby boy, he's got his son, but he had to get ready to be retried for the rape of his ex. So on March 11th, 2005, he has to prepare to go to trial again. Now, Cynthia Hall was a deputy that guarded Brian during his prior trials under Judge Barnes. So when the bus pulls up to the courthouse, Cynthia escorted him from the basement detention area to a holding cell that's on the 8th floor in the Fulton County Justice Center. Now, typically, he would have had, more than one guard on him, but for some reason, Cynthia thought that she could handle him herself. And there was actually another deputy, Deputy Thomas, that told her like 3 times, like, hey, you need to get another guard up here with you, especially since he has to change clothes and everything. But Cynthia's like, nah, I got him. You know, it's okay. And she's thinking, stuff is going to be cool. But for some reason, like, she actually trusted this man. Like, girl, he's an inmate. What the hell is wrong with you? Now, here's the messed up thing. The day before the guards found Brian, or no, I'm sorry, the day before he went to the courthouse, the guards found Brian with door hinges in his shoes, like he had sharpened them and was planning on using them as a weapon. So, why Deputy Hall didn't think that he would try to do something again is beyond me. But, she told her partner, no, I got him. It's cool. So she takes Brian from the holding cell and she takes his handcuffs off so that, he could go ahead and change into his clothes. And as soon as she gets one cuff off, he then turns around and attacks her. And all of it is caught on video. He's hitting her over and over and over. And then he shoves her into one of the open cells. He punched her so hard in her face that her feet literally lifted from the ground. Like it looked like something out of a Mortal Kombat video game. And so he grabbed her gun, her radio, her magazines for her gun, and he picks up the keys from the floor and he locks her into one of the cells. Like, thank God he did not kill her. So he does what he's supposed to do and changes his clothes and takes the lockbox that had the 40 caliber Beretta, and he's armed and ready to go. He takes off running. And there's this sky bridge where you can go to the old courthouse, which is where his trial was supposed to be. So he goes into the old courthouse and he goes into the private chambers of Judge Barnes. And it just so happens that Judge Barnes wasn't in the chambers. He was already in a courtroom dealing with a civil matter. But in his chambers were case managers Susan Christie and Gina Clark Thomas, along with an attorney named David Allman. And, Brian's mad because he wants Judge Barnes. So he's like, get on the floor, get the fuck down. And he's got the gun pointing at them, nobody move or I'm gonna fucking kill you. Where the fuck is Judge Barnes at? And they shook, they scared. They're like, oh, this man done came in here with a gun. They don't know what the fuck to tell him. And at this time, Sergeant Grant White, who is a court bailiff, he came into the chambers and he sees Brian and he's like, oh shit. So, like, he tries to get the gun out of Brian's hand, but homie failed miserably. And so now Brian's got another hostage. He's cocky as shit. He's, telling him, like, yeah, try me if you want to, bitch. I ain't got shit to lose. Sit the fuck down. And, now Brian got two guns because he's taken the gun from Sergeant White plus the one he already had. And so he has the sergeant handcuff Christy and David, the attorney, and Gina to keep them from trying to, do anything. And so Sergeant White tried to be slick and hit the emergency button that was in the chambers, but Brian heard it and was like, nah, homie, we ain't doing that today. So Brian gets on the radio and tells them to disregard the alarm. And so everybody else in the courthouse, they hear it, they're like, that's strange. That don't sound like Sergeant White. And so Brian knows he got to run. So he grabs the sergeant, pushes him into the bathroom, closes the door, puts something over it, and he dips. And at this point, the other deputies are all running towards the chambers because they're trying to figure out what's going on. And they find Deputy Cynthia Hall in a holding cell and they're shook because she is bloody and bruised. She's barely moving. She's in a lot of pain. They're like, oh shit, officer down, call 911. According to the hospital sources, y'all, at Grady Memorial Hospital, Cynthia Hall had severe brain damage. Brian hit her so hard that she had facial fractures and a large laceration to her forehead. Now, she did survive, of course, but he hit her so hard and so many times that initially the hospital thought that she had a gunshot wound to the face. So Brian is running because he knows that the deputies are coming. They know that something is wrong, but they don't know who it is. And so Brian runs inside of a courtroom 8F, from the door that's behind the judge's bench. And that's where Judge Barnes was seated. Now, he was in a different trial handling a different matter, and he never even saw Brian coming. Like, Brian just took the gun and shot him at point blank range in the back of the head. And he's thinking, well, shit, I might as well kill the ADA while I'm here. And he's looking in the room. All these people are terrorized and, they're cowering in fear. They're running out the door. They're trying to protect themselves. But Brian doesn't see the ADA. So he sees this court reporter by the name of Julie Brandow that jumped up to check on the judge, and he shoots her in the head. Meanwhile, in the judge's chambers, Sergeant White is still like in the bathroom and he's like banging on the door. And he finally gets to his radio and he starts coding. But then he hears shots fired, courtroom 8F, shots fired. And so the sergeant, he jumps in and he gives them a description of what he knows Brian looks like. And so meanwhile, Brian's still looking for people to kill. Basically, he goes to the side room where the courtroom has their witnesses and he's, looking for somebody that will testify or whatever. He's specifically looking for his ex. He's looking for Jane Doe. But she was actually late that day, so the room was empty. So Brian goes running out the courtroom and he goes down the emergency stairwell because, duh, the deputies are looking for him. And there's this one particular Sergeant Hoyt Teasley that had just got to work and was responding to the alarm. Now, he didn't even have a chance to put on his bulletproof vest yet and just, literally jumped into action. So he sees Brian and he tries to stop him. He's running after him, not even knowing fully what's going on. And they're running down the stairwell down 7 flights of stairs. Whoo, shit. Let me tell you, baby, the way I would have been grabbing for my inhaler. But they managed to, run down the stairwell and out of the old courthouse. And they go through this, emergency exit that leads on to Martin Luther King Drive. And when he runs out the door, Brian ended up sounding another alarm because he went out the door that he shouldn't have. And there's people out in the street. So Brian just fires off in the air, pow, 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 pow. And people are running. It's causing a scene. And this is just like a crowded street. But, Teasley's right behind him. So Brian turns, points his gun right at Teasley, fires 2 shots off before he can even draw his weapon, which I'm surprised that he hadn't drawn yet. But he fires twice at Teasley. Teasley, who remember is not wearing a bulletproof vest, gets shot in the chest, falls to the ground, and dies from a single gunshot wound to his abdomen. Brian, he's running into the underground parking garage, which is across from the courthouse. Y'all, this man was just over here, just out here stealing cars. In a matter of like a day, he stole like 5 vehicles. Okay. But we shall get into that for next week's episode. When he was going into the parking garage, there was this guy named Dwayne Cooper who was a deputy solicitor general. Well, Dwayne drove a 2002 rather Mazda Tribute and was pulling in when Brian walks up to the car, points the gun and was like, "Give me the keys, motherfucker." And so Dwayne jumped out and was like, "All right, man, you got it." So Brian gets in, he backs out and he speeds away down MLK Boulevard. And Larry McCrary, who works in the Fulton County Juvenile Courts, he sees Brian driving in the car. So he decides to follow him and turns on Peachtree Street. And he goes into a parking garage near Underground Atlanta. So Larry blocks him by blocking the entrance and the exit to the parking deck. And he flags down some police officers. Now they see him, so they're like, okay, cool. There's cops everywhere because duh, he just killed 2 people in the courthouse and then 1 person outside. So the cops go inside and they're thinking, okay, we got him trapped in. He can't go nowhere. But Brian is 2 steps ahead. When the officers go inside, Larry sees Brian walking out of an entrance down the street like it was nothing. So he left the car in there. Brian walked over to this tow truck driver named Durante Franklin, who's at the corner of Peachtree, completely oblivious to what's happening. And just, he out there doing his job. And so Brian points the gun at him and tells him, "Get the fuck out." And Durante ain't trying to die, so he gets out the truck. Brian gets in and he speeds off in the tow truck and he travels north going on Peachtree. He turns onto Walton, which is this one-way street, and bro was definitely going the wrong way. Okay. He goes into the Imperial parking garage on Cole Street. I don't know what the hell was up with him in all of these parking garages, but clearly the brother had a plan. So he drives to like the 4th floor of the parking garage, gets out, and then he sees a woman named Almetta Kilgo. She was an Atlanta Journal Constitution software developer, and she was driving a 2004 Mercury Sable. So he sees her, does the same thing, points the gun at her, only he doesn't make her get out. He tells her to get over into the passenger seat. I don't know, maybe bruh needed a break for a minute from all that carjacking. I don't know. But Almeda is frozen in fear. And he's like, "Yo, I'm not playing with you. Can't you see the blood on my hands? Get the fuck over." So she moves and he gets in the car and they start driving. And he drives a little short distance and then he stops. And he's like, "You know what? I ain't feeling this. Get the fuck in the trunk." You want me to do what? Yeah, she got a voice from somewhere because she was like, "I ain't getting in no damn trunk." So instead, she jumps out the car and she runs for her life. And Brian ain't got time to be chasing after her, so he's thinking, fuck it, on to the next. He starts driving north on Spring Street, and then he goes into this parking lot where there's a local apparel mart. Sung Chin is outside in a 1997 Isuzu Trooper. He worked at the jewelry store by the apparel mart. And so Brian sees him and, he knows he got his next target. So he walks over to him, points the gun to his head, and he's like, get in the passenger seat and then get on the floorboard. How small is this dude? Because ain't no way I can get on the floorboard of a car without being seen. Like, what? My knees would be hurting. But anyway, they're pulling out of the garage, and Brian demands Sung to give him his jacket. Now, Sung is, significantly smaller than Brian, but he gives him the jacket. And so when Brian takes his shirt off and starts putting the coat on, Sung just bolts. He ran. Like, he jumped out the car and ran like Forrest Gump. I was running. And Brian keeps trucking and he drives to the Centennial Tower parking deck across from the CNN Center. And y'all, literally, all of this has taken place and it's only been 15 minutes since he escaped the courthouse. Yes, 15 minutes. Like, this man has stolen 4 cars in 15 minutes. So as he goes to the CNN center, parking lot, another Atlanta Journal Constitution reporter by the name of Donald Bryant was parking his SUV in a handicap spot. So Brian's not wearing a shirt because he just took it off. So he gets out of the car and he goes over to O'Brien and he puts on this nice boy act. Hey, sorry to bother you. Do you think you can give me directions to Lenox Square? And, O'Brien is looking at this sweaty ass nigga in a 2 sizes too small jacket. And he's like, yeah, sure. I guess. All right. And so he starts giving him directions, and Brian pulls out a gun and he's like, give me the keys or I'm gonna kill you. So Don gets out of his car and was told to get into the trunk, but he refused. Brian just hits him with the gun and takes his 87 Honda Accord. Where the fuck did you think you were going in an 87 Honda Accord, bruh? I guess he realized he couldn't go far because he left it on the first floor of the parking deck. Like, I still don't know how Brian got out of the parking lot, but he did. And the media wasted no time in getting his face out there. There was a special edition of America's Most Wanted that was released that night, and Brian was featured. Now, supposedly, a phone call was made to 911 from Brian threatening to kill Assistant District Attorney Gail Abramson and Assistant District Attorney Ash Joshi, who were prosecuting his case. Now, this was according to Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard, but it was never actually proven. But there is a manhunt underway, which, ultimately means that Brian just can't really be out in the streets like that. Because, yeah, if you get noticed, it's over. So while the manhunt is going on, the Georgia governor, Sonny Perdue, at the time, he decides to step in and he says, citizens of Georgia, we're going to give a $65,000 reward for information leading up to Brian Nichols' arrest. And so the city of Atlanta was practically on lockdown because of the amount of shootings that took place in, such a small amount of time. And so the Atlanta police had all of their officers and cruisers out looking for him. The helicopters were flying above, swarming the areas trying to find him. They set up roadblocks at all the major intersections from downtown to midtown. There were more than 100 state troopers and officers from several different agencies like the FBI, the GBI, all of that. Hell, even off-duty officers were coming in to help look for this man. Like, y'all, you done killed 2 people inside the courtroom. You done killed deputies. You done put one of them in the hospital. You've killed people, involved in the legal system. A judge at that, nigga, you going down. And so when Brian left the parking deck, he went to the train station, which was like a block away. He hops on the MARTA station and he's very, noticeable because he's in a jacket that don't fit, no t-shirt, and he's sweating like crazy. But he takes the train and does a little bit of walking, and around 10 p.m. that night, he ends up at the Summit at Lenox, which was this apartment complex in Buckhead. It's pretty decent, But while he's in the neighborhood, a woman by the name of Iman Aiden is coming back home from the gym. She's walking to her apartment, and Brian, well, he's trying to figure out where he's going to hide because he can't be out in them streets, like, not with the amount of heat on him. So he sees Iman and he thinks, I'll force her to let me stay with her. So he walks up to her, pulls his gun, and he tells her, I need to use your apartment as a hiding place. Mhm. Mhm. Silly Negro. It's late and, she's scared. She's got this gun on her. But when she gets to the apartment, Brian is met with Iman's boyfriend, Shelton Warren, who was already inside. So when she comes to the apartment with this man, Shelton sees the gun and he's like, Yo, what the fuck? So he grabs Iman, shoves her inside the house, and they start wrestling with Brian in the hallway. And Shelton is basically whooping Brian's ass. Like Iman, she's scared for her man, so she dials 911 and Brian can hear her talking to the 911 dispatcher telling her what's happening. And so, he knows that he can't stick around. He got to run. So he pops Shelton in the head with the gun and then he runs. He's running and he manages to encounter U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent David G. Willem on Cantor Road. Remember, they're in the Buckhead area of Atlanta, and so this is literally across the street from the apartment complex where he was at. Um, David was at that house laying tiles in the bathroom when he came across Brian. Brian shoots and kills him and stashes him in a back bedroom. He robs his pockets, literally inside and out, and steals his wallet, his badge, his gun, and his blue Chevy pickup truck. So at this point, Brian is driving and he's got to think quick. He's like, I got to go somewhere where I can rest. I need sleep. It's late. Like, it's technically the next day, early in the morning at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And so after driving, he ends up going to this apartment complex, Bridgewater Apartments, where he sees his next victim. He crosses paths with a woman named Ashley Smith who was in the parking lot. She was coming back from a night out. So he sees her and he points a gun at her and he says, If you do what I say, I'm not going to kill you. So he takes her to her apartment and forces her inside and he tells her, Look, I'm on the run. I can't go to jail. He takes her to the bathroom and he ties her up with an electrical cord and, duct tapes her, all of that. His little funky ass decides to get in the shower. So while he's washing up, he places a towel over Ashley's head so she doesn't see anything that she isn't supposed to see. Oh, how considerate, you little asshole. The whole time she's just, sitting on the toilet with a towel around her eyes and she's just praying. And she's like, Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. And she tells him, I've got a 5-year old little girl. She's coming to visit. I want to see my baby again. And she's crying and pleading with him. And Brian's not hearing none of it. Like, he's like, Baby, I don't give a damn. And he's like, Yo, you got some weed? And she's like, No, I don't have any weed, but I, I got ice. Now I know y'all are thinking, okay, what's ice? It's meth, people. See, Ashley wasn't lying. She did have a daughter, but her daughter was taken away at one point, and her daughter was living with someone else because, she kind of got caught up and was, let's just say, struggling. So she had a little bit of methamphetamine in the house, and she tells Brian, I ain't gonna weed, but I can give you some of that. So, she was pretty much coming down from her own high because she had smoked like the day before. So Brian was like, All right, cool, bet. He takes the meth and, he tells her, why don't you do some with me? But she's like, Nah, I can't. My daughter is coming. But what she did do is she took her Bible and she started reading from that. And then she also had a copy of Rick Warren's book, The Purpose Driven Life. She's trying to relate to him and, telling him things that happened to her, like how she lost her husband. And she's telling him, Listen, this isn't what you want to do in life. You don't want to be on the run. Just turn yourself in. I've seen some bad things. I lost my husband 4 years ago and he died in my arms. You don't want to be doing these drugs all the time either. There is a danger to drugs. And she lifts up her tank top and she shows him this 5-inch scar that's going down the middle of her torso. Like she got it from a drug induced car wreck. She was high and she got into a car and let go of the steering wheel because she heard a voice in her head telling her to let go and let God. Well, she let go and let God bring her back with a 5-inch cut. Sorry. So, as she's reading the Bible and these book passages, the news comes on the TV and Brian sees his face plastered all over the news. And he's thinking, fuck. He's looking up at the sky like, God, please forgive me. He got to think of something because at this point, bodies have been discovered. The immigration's officer's body has been found. So that means they're going to be, looking for his truck. So he's like, all right, I got to figure out how to get the truck out of here. Listen, I want you to follow me in your car and I'm going to go dump the truck somewhere else. And Ashley, she's like, okay, um, can I bring my cell phone? And he tells her, yeah. Now, this is where I start to think,
You know you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
it's the fact that you literally told this woman, yeah, you can travel with your cell phone. Like, she's not going to use it. Like, that is beyond crazy to me because the minute that you did all of this, like, bruh, you knew she was going to call the cops. But you know what? Surprisingly, y'all, she did not. She took her cell phone because he told her she could. And you would think that she would call the police or that, she would drive to the police station, seeing as how she's in a different car with her cell phone and he's driving a truck. But she didn't do that. She followed him like he asked her to. And then he gets into her car. They go back to her house. Her whole reasoning for not calling the cops was, well, if I take him to the house, he won't kill as many people. She felt like she could personally stop him. So they get back to her house and she decides to cook him breakfast. Like she's making this nigga pancakes. Like, what the fuck? She made him pancakes. And while he's eating them, she's like, hey, do you think you can, I can go and see my daughter Paige? And he finally tells her, yeah, you can go ahead and go. So she takes her phone and she goes outside and she calls 911. It's about 9:50 in the morning and she tells the dispatcher, Brian Nichols is at my apartment. I'm at the Bridgewater Apartments in Duluth, Georgia. Hurry. So Gwinnett Police, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, ATF, they all come out. They even got the Gwinnett SWAT team out there and they surround the apartment. And they're letting Brian know, like, yo, we got you surrounded. Come out with your hands up, all of that. He's in there by himself. And so he comes out of the apartment waving a white towel and surrenders to the police, which was kind of surprising because I felt like maybe he would have ended in a shootout, but he surrendered. The authorities recovered three, not one, not two, but three stolen firearms that he had and Agent Willem's wallet that he had inside of Ashley's apartment. They also found the truck about 2 miles away at another complex. Um, it was a lot that they found. Brian Nichols was taken to the FBI field office in Decatur, Georgia, where he was held on a federal charge of possession of a firearm by a person um, under indictment. And he was then transferred to the Atlanta police station where he was interviewed with Detective Vincent Velasquez. He gave a 3.5 hour statement where he confessed to shooting the four people and everything that he had done. He didn't have any lawyers present, none of that, but he just confessed. So the investigators told him that they needed a videotaped statement about the courthouse shootings and, so on and so on. And it it got real for lack of better words. Like, this nigga really started to show who he really was. He tells them, I felt like I was a soldier on a mission, extracting revenge on a judicial system that's unfair to black people. I knew I didn't rape that girl, but I was going to prison for something I didn't do. All I saw was a sea of black faces. Hmm. Interesting choice of words. He goes into detail about how he hurt Deputy Hall and threw her against the concrete wall like a rag doll. He talked about making her weapons, running into the judge's chamber, all of that. He even admits in his confession how Judge Barnes was nice, but he's a part of a larger system of injustice. And they're like, well, why did you kill the court reporter? And he said, well, shit, she stood up to check on the judge, so she had to go. He then compliments law enforcement and tells them, I was very impressed that they didn't shoot me when I walked into the door. Y'all. So anyway, the Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard tells everybody, at the end of the day, this man is proud of what he did. He didn't show any remorse. And if you looked at the video, you'll see he did not. So on May 5th, 2005, Brian Nichols is indicted by the Fulton County Grand Jury on 54 counts of murder, felony murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, theft, carjacking, and escape from authorities. And of course, the state was seeking the death penalty. Want to know the funny part though? Despite the confession and despite the video confession, on May 17th, 2005, Brian pleads not guilty to the charges. Boy, what? Okay. So the jury selection lasted about 3 months, but there was like a little hesitation as to where the trial was going to be because, hell, Fulton County Courthouse is where he killed all those people. So they voted and, just stepping in there as a trigger. Like, you really trying to have them have flashbacks and be looking over their shoulder. But, on February 8th, 2006, Superior Court Judge Hilton Fuller rules that Brian's trial would take place at that same courthouse. So, he said that he would allow cameras in the courtroom, but there was nothing that was going to be, like any type of restrictions. So on September 27th, 2005, Ashley Smith, who he had held captive, publishes a book called Unlikely Angel. And it talks about the 7 hours that she spent as his hostage. The good thing is she got 70 grand in reward money. So I know that was probably helpful to her. I know she definitely could use it towards her recovery. But the jury selection, it began on October 15th, 2007, but literally it lasted like 2 days. 2 days later, the selection gets suspended because of a lack of state funding for the defense. Like, despite his parents' statuses, Brian can't afford an attorney. You killed 4 people and currently dealing with a rape charge. Like, no. So he gets a public defender, and the money that was being requested was over $500,000. And then to make it worse, January 30th, 2008, Judge Fuller has to step down due to the fact that his perception of the case is biased. So Brian is just, sitting in jail waiting to find out what's going to happen with his trial. Literally over a year later from the date that he killed those 4 people on July, or excuse me, he killed the 4 people in March, but on July 10th, 2008, the trial resumes and jury selection begins again. Once again, Brian pleads not guilty, but this time it's by reason of insanity, y'all. After all this time, he says, "Oh, I'm insane." Okay. So after almost 3 months, on September 17th, 2008, a jury is selected. The jury consisted of 8 women and 4 men, 6 black females, 2 white females, 2 black males, 1 white male, and 1 Asian male were selected. And Brian has his attorneys Jake Sussman and Henderson Hill representing him. And it was a pretty penny too. Like, do y'all know that Brian's defense team racked up a $3 million bill? Shit. Ain't no way in fuck. And they knew that his ass was guilty. The defense should have cost him about, I'd say, $500,000 or so. But they had expert witnesses and attorneys and all of this. And y'all see that, well, y'all will see in a second. Anyway, so the trial was initially postponed because it was costly. Like, it was $5 million to prosecute and defend Brian Nichols. In addition to that, there was $10 million in settlement fees to the victims' families because there were issues with security at the courthouse. Judge Barnes's widow won a $5.2 million lawsuit the month before his trial. And then the county commissioners had to pay another $5 million to Julie Brand, a the daughter, Julie Brando's daughter, Christina Schul. Sorry, I had a mind blank. But she sued as well. Like, I'd be suing too. Hell yeah. So, like I said, he's on trial, and opening statements begin September 22nd, 2008. The prosecution said that Brian was a conniving, vicious, cold blooded, remorseless, evil, and extremely dangerous killer who carefully planned the attack and methodically sought out his targets. He's not insane. He had a plan, and we're going to bring you proof of his plan. And they did. The trial lasted over a month, and prosecutors and defense both have all these witnesses to come and testify. One of which was the psychiatric Mark Cunningham that the defense called. He tried to argue about Brian's mental condition. He said that, Brian had an emotionally distant relationship with his parents because of, how they were when he was a child. They worked all these long hours and were never home. And his father drank like a fish and smoked weed, which led Brian to begin, abusing the same substances as a child. The psychiatrist agreed that Brian was actually abused by a cousin and that his older brother Mark had abused him as well and bullied him. And his childhood carried into adulthood. That is so okay. All right. Whew. So, like, Brian used to like write these essays about eradicating the black race and, wanting to imprison black men and keep them away from having children and, all of that. And one of Brian's essays read, "If violence can be a righteous tool for the white man, then surely it can be used as a righteous tool for the black man. If violence can be used to murder defenseless women and children in South Africa and Vietnam, then surely it can be used to defend the human rights of dark skinned people all over the world." That's telling me the motherfucker had issues and y'all just didn't want to help him get any help. Like, that's what that's telling me. Now, Brian's former attorney from the rape trial, Barry Hazen, he also testifies. He said that Brian insisted that his ex girlfriend still loved him and wouldn't testify against him, even though she was the one that put the rape charges on him in the first place. So he said that the meeting that Judge Barnes had in his chambers on March 10th of 2005 was the increasingly erratic behavior and how dangerous he had become. He said that the judge was a, very fine man and told him, "You're sitting closest to him. You need to be careful." And the prosecution was ready for his ass too. They played audio tapes of the gunshots that killed Julie Brandow, Judge Barnes, and all of that, all because they were in a civil trial. And during court cases, there's audio recording. And when Brian busted up in there, the tape recorder had already started doing its thing. So you could actually hear their last moments of life. The lead prosecutor, Kelly Hill, she plays the tape and you can hear a woman's voice saying, "Don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Please, please don't hurt me. Help." And then you hear the screams of her being killed and shot in the head. The prosecution also brought up the fact that Cynthia Hall, the deputy that he punched in the face and beat up, had grown to trust Brian. just like I thought. The two had started talking and getting to know each other, and they were talking about each other's kids and everything. And so, because of the fact that like he was friendly and she didn't, I guess, require him to wear the necessary cuffs, he should have been, wearing. But the shackles on his legs, like he was supposed to wear those, but she got a little too trusting, and she's now blind in her right eye, and her eyelid, I guess, like grouped together. Her brain damage caused confusion, memory problems, difficulty with speech. She has difficulty walking unassisted. So, all of that chatting and, flirting, and this is how you get left. Now, after about a month, on November 7th, 2008, the jury is dismissed for deliberation. It took the jury 12 hours to deliberate, which is crazy because I feel like the longer that a jury takes, that you can never be sure as to how it's going to turn out. Like when the jury deliberates for like an hour or 2 hours, I'm like, yeah, you're fucked. But when it comes to like hours and hours of deliberation, it's like the OJ trial all over again. Like everybody's on pins and needles. And that's how it was in this instance. It was a little 12 hours of deliberation. Now, the judge had a little warning for the families and spectators in the courtroom, which was, you know, stupid to me, but he warned everyone, when they read this verdict, if you are in this courtroom, any emotional outburst is going to be a contempt of court, and you could face up to 20 days in jail. Like, fuck the fact that the victims' families are there in the damn courthouse where they were killed. So everybody's at a standstill, and the jury reads the verdict. The jury finds Brian Nichols guilty on all 54 counts. They agreed that, he wasn't suffering from mental illness. He didn't do this from insanity. He did this because he wanted to. And that was facts. So Brian was found guilty and now faces sentencing. All of that money that was spent from the taxpayer's dollar to keep him from dying. Like, the jury was deadlocked on the death penalty sentence. They couldn't decide if it was the right thing to do. Like, fuck the fact that he had taken four lives, raped a woman, beat another woman to the point that she was in the hospital. They couldn't decide if, the death penalty really was necessary. In this instance, it is, but we'll, get back into that on fair or foul. Anywho, because of this, on December 13th, 2013, 2008, Judge Barnes, I'm sorry, Judge Bodyford, Judge James Bodyford, I gotta stop drinking, sentences Brian to life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is the maximum, for all counts. So the judge tells him, if there was any more I could give you, I would. Do y'all know that Brian's parents never came home from Africa? Like, clearly they put work before their kids, like a lot, but damn. Like, they were still in Africa and they couldn't really say anything at first. Like, his mom literally found out about her son's case via CNN while she was in Tanzania. Like, imagine turning on the TV and seeing your son's face plastered on the news for murder. But still, she did better, what she could do from Africa. She kept in touch with his attorney, Barry Hazen, very well. Now his brother Mark was really upset because he's like, damn, now I'm forever known as the brother of the, person who killed people. But he was a little greedy to me because he was charging people to do interviews. Like, that sounds like you're monetizing off your brother to me, but okay. And so Brian's childhood friend, Reginald, he was very heartbroken. He said, the only thing I can say is our hearts go out to the people in Georgia. I really mean that. Brian is a nice young man as far as we know. I don't know what happened. I hate when relatives and parents try to cover their kids and say, oh, they were such a good boy, or oh, they were so sweet, and all that BS. Anyway, so Now Brian's father Gene is interviewed the day that, Brian went to jail for 9 days, and he said something very profound. He said, "It never leaves you. I don't think it's gonna get any better. Try to go to sleep at night, but if you can, that's the only time it leaves you." He and his wife reached out to Judge Barnes' wife to let her know that, he shot, all these people. Um, he says he and his wife, both reached out to Judge Barnes' wife to let her know that, they were sorry for their loss and, everything. His mom also reached out to Ashley Smith, who was the surviving victim, the one that he was with last. And she was like, "Thank you for making my baby pancakes." Girl, that was your focus? Okay. Brian Nichols is now at the Georgia Diagnostic and Classification State Prison, which is in Jackson, Georgia. It is a high max unit and probably one of the most secure facilities in Georgia. This is one of those few prisons that holds the state execution chamber. Too bad they'll never get a chance to utilize it, which sucks, but he is in there for life. Ashley Smith went on to live her life, and her book Unlikely Angel was republished in 2015 and called Captive: The Untold Story of the Atlanta Hostage Hero. In September 2015, a film was adapted from the book titled Captive. It starred David Oyelowo, that fine ass British actor. Y'all remember him? He played MLK in the movie Selma. He played in The Butler, Queen of Katwe. I think the most recent movie I saw him in was Role Play, but yeah, he played those roles really good. And Kate Mara played, Ashley Smith. Okay, so now it is time for Fair or Foul, where we look at the sentencing given to the criminal and determine if it is fair. With this one, I believe life without parole is beyond fair. Honestly, I kind of would have preferred that his ass had the death sentence, especially in Georgia. Like we all know is a death penalty state. We've seen people be given the death sentence for less. This man pretty much got over the first time. Like you raped Jane Doe and then terrorized her on the stand, making her feel like she was wrong when really you were in the wrong and you know it. You manipulated her for 7 years. You lied to her. You cheated on her with multiple people. You was out here hooking up with prostitutes and hoes. You went and had a whole baby on her. But you want her to feel like she's in the wrong? Like, how does that make sense? You literally beat this woman and then you raped her and made her feel like shit because she wanted to move on with somebody else. And at least she moved on with a pastor and not just some fuckboy like you. Like, thank God she had self esteem. You mad because she moved on instead of pining away over your ugly ass? Boy, fuck you. You was out here fucking around making kids, but she couldn't move on. That's the mistake too many men make. That's the mistake that happens more than we want it to. Got me sounding like Ike Turner. No, 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 no. God damn it. Anyway. Like a man could go out and fuck around and do whatever he wants to do, and women just have to accept it. But it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. It ain't no fun when the woman is out there doing her thing. Best believe if you cheating around on me and then I turn around and fuck around on you, oh, it's gonna hurt 10 times worse. Cause see, I'm petty as fuck. I'm not mature like her. I'm not mature like Jane Doe. I'm not that type of bitch that's going like I'm the type of bitch that's gonna go out there and just, I'm not gonna go fuck no random person. I'm gonna hurt you way worse than you hurt me and have you curled up somewhere in the fetal position crying. I'll be the type of bitch that'll go fuck your daddy and then get you written out the will if you was even in that bitch to begin with. Like, don't fucking play with me. I mean, this dude here is just the lowest of the low. You literally went and killed somebody for doing their job. Judge Barnes was presiding over your case. If anything, the jury was the one that was going to determine whether you know, were guilty or not. But instead of you accepting that, instead of you saying, "All right, I fucked up," you went and killed this man. You killed a woman for wanting to check on him. You killed people that were in law enforcement, and you really thought that you were going to get away with it. Then you pull this whole insanity plea. They should have been fucking fried your ass. A cocktail of drugs ain't good enough. It should have been hooking your ass up to the electric chair, dousing you in water, and watching you fucking sizzle like bacon, you bastard. Anyway, that's my feeling on that. That is all for this week's episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. That's a number one, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On Twitter, X, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can join the exclusive private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group. Some of y'all are still pending in that waiting room because you ain't answered them questions. So yeah, you might want to answer the questions to get in. I done kicked a lot of people out. Have no problem. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so on. So please leave a review. It only takes a few seconds. These reviews matter. Oh, speaking of reviews, the first one comes from Spotify on the Anaya Mac episode. It's from Taylor Moon, and it says, I love, love, love this podcast. You're literally became my favorite podcaster after 2 episodes. Literally, like I'm talking to my homegirl. Oh, thanks, Boo. I appreciate that. The next review is from Apple Podcast from Kelly the Legend, and it's captioned, Let's get it. Says, I found your podcast from a recommendation from Sisters Who Kill. And girl, you do not disappoint. I love your storytelling and how much effort you put into your research. I am constantly checking for new drops from you. Keep doing your thing and don't be discouraged by the lack of reviews. More times than not, people will leave a negative review before they leave a good one. We have it here, Queen. We love it here, Queen. Sorry, you're awesome. Aw. I appreciate y'all that leave reviews because I swear I be begging like a crackhead for them joints. Like them streams are steady, but the reviews are scarce. I'm just trying to, kind of get the balance is all. Like it really doesn't take much to leave a review. Apple Podcast is a free app to download. Just, download it for those of you that have Android. You'll have to create a username. Or if you already got an iPhone, what you waiting on? I'll accept reviews however I can get them, but I really want to see some reviews on Apple Podcasts. Oh, real quick, y'all know that the show was weekly and it got to the point that it became like every other week. Side note, is that why y'all asses ain't leaving reviews? Because I ain't dropping them weekly no more? But yeah, between work, wedding planning, writing books, I kind of like slowed up on the episodes. But after the wedding, I'll have the free time to write my episodes quicker. Like I have like 4 months of episodes that I've researched and just need to write them out. So with that being said, the week of Thanksgiving, there will not be an episode because not only is it Thanksgiving, but it's also my wedding and I'm damn near a basket case and got like a whole month left. So I know my ass won't be recording, but I will try my hardest to get an episode out the week prior, even if it's like a shorter episode. So y'all just, bear with me. If you want to support the show or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning that liquor we've been sipping on tonight, and in my case, the, Stella Honey Peach, click the link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to this episode on and hit listener support to subscribe. You can give whatever amount you'd like. You can also donate via Cash App at $infamous one pod. That's $INFAMOUS ONEPOD. Donations go toward new recording equipment because, yeah, it's needed. Oh, and as always, shout out to the popcorn donators. If you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you want to leave a review, send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. Once again, people, please share, share, share. This podcast is my baby, and I want everyone to hear it and love it like you do. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next time with a new episode. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.